in because for some reason I'm on time today, like way early on time today. I'm not getting straight to the stories because maybe this is one of those trigger moments where more folks start coming in. So I know there's a few people just chilling in the chat before we jump in. So while I organize the last couple things I want to organize, why not just say hi, right, bro? Why not just say hi? Hold on, I need one more click on that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Um, so hi. The World Series starts today. I was just chatting there in the chat, and I'd rather speak to Squirrel Dragon, Mariners fan. Glad to see you. Glad you're here. Glad to see that you're here for some angry fanfare against the Blue Jays. Even though, really, who can really dislike the Blue Jays? It's not like they're a disliked team. Generally, I don't think their fans are a-holes or anything like that. Sometimes the Dodgers, we get that stuff. Hey, everybody. What's going on, Abby? John Ryan, 1403, good to see you. Naomi, oh, I'm seeing some new names. I haven't seen all these names as much. Is it because I'm actually talking to you guys rather than just jumping straight in and getting angry and talk about Gestapos and fascism and all that stuff and horrible economies? Sweet Angel Dragon, good to see you as usual. Hey, what's up, Ma? Glad to see everyone. Dwayne, J3013. Where do y'all's names come from whenever there's extra numbers and stuff like that? I never understand. I would assume it's like someone's like favorite number or birth year or something that relates to them, but sometimes there's some random numbers. I never understood it all that much. I never get to just talk. You know, when I did 2IT, the main show a lot, we used to just talk. It's gotten so um, direct to the stories and direct to the breakdowns and the analysis. Why don't we just talk sometimes? Should I just come on and just have a hangout session every once in a while so that five people can show up? Or people would show up expecting us to talk about stories. And instead, I'm here going, hey, yeah, I mean, I kind of like the Dodgers' chances this year. I mean, Shohei Ohtani destroyed them. Also, let's keep it real. I'm not sure how much you guys really know about me and other interests I have outside of just doing these things. I didn't want to get into political analysis at all. 0%. I had no interest. The first election I could have voted in presidentially, it was the 2000 election with Gore and W. I didn't vote in that election. I didn't care. I was one of those folks who said it doesn't matter. Both parties are the same. I really didn't care. um, Dragon Shepherd says, if you ignore the news, it might go away. Yo, I try every weekend and then I end up not ignoring the news and it still doesn't go away. What do you know? Maybe I should commit one of these days. But no, I didn't vote at all in 2000. That shows my age. But and if you saw this gray hair right underneath this hat, it would really show my age. Um, but I started with TYT when I was like 21, 21, 22. I can't remember. And then the raging that we did on the Iraq war and the reasons we went into it, it kind of drew me in. I was a sports guy. I interned at Fox Sports with the NFL Sunday crew. I did that first before I started with TYT. That was my first one. My idea for my life was to either be like play-by-play guy, NBA or NFL analyst, but analysts are always former pro athletes of that sport, so that was no chance. Maybe just like a talker, maybe a radio guy, maybe do shows, pregame, postgame things. That was my thought. There was a time I told a friend the Lakers were playing. Oh, got 4 minutes for the top of the hour. I told a friend who this again will date how much people couldn't see things. They were driving, so they couldn't watch the Lakers game back when it was the Shaq and Kobe days. And I was watching, and they said, "Jared, tell me what's happening." So I just ran what was going on as I was seeing it. And he said, "Man, I feel like I'm listening to it like on the radio." I said, "Maybe that's something I can do." Then I met Cenk Uygur and Ben Mankiewicz and Jesus Godoy, and none of that continued on from that point. But I was supposed to maybe be the sports guy that came in, and then things changed up. So now look at this. This many years later, 24 years later, 23 to 24 years later, my ass is in here every day. Lloyd Austin is like, yeah. And now I'm in here doing this every day. Who knew? You never know which direction and what type of things you may end up focusing on with your life. So it is Friday, though. Still, as folks come in, we haven't begun the stories yet. I'm just chatting it up a little bit because I had a little bit extra time and didn't feel like typing instead today. So get your adult beverage ready. Yeah, May money. You can have an adult beverage. Damn it, 9 a.m. Hey, listen, It's the after, as the drunkards say that I used to go to college with. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and that never made sense. Is it always 5 o'clock somewhere? Maybe it's after 5 o'clock somewhere. They should go with. You can always have something. A mimosa works. It is Friday. Depends on what kind of work you guys do and if you can get away with it. More people work at home now than they used to, so that always allows you to get away with it. It just might show up in your work. May Money is a Warriors fan. I have a Warriors hat. I see it right there. It's 5 to 6 feet away from my hand right now. The problem with that Warriors hat is it's a size 8. It was back when I had dreads, and I can't lie to you. I think I have about 80 hats that are size 8 plus when I had dreads. So many folks that watched the live show when we did it normally for watch list sent me so many damn hats. But also, I bought so many damn hats, and I have little to zero use for so many of them now after I cut all my hair off. So now I've got dope hats that I really can't wear all that much. I'm still trying. I have little schemes that I do to try and plop them on every once in a while. I'm not sure if you noticed this, May Money. I did wear that hat like a week or two ago. I'm not going to tell you my secret, but I wore it. Maybe you should have been here and you'd have seen it. Maybe if you weren't such a Warriors fan, who are now what, 2-0? They beat up on the Lakers and barely got by Denver in overtime last night. They're doing all right. Who knew? Also, old man Al Horford joined the team. Oh, it's at the top of the hour yet? This is the rambling that I generally do. So you guys that are looking for politics and political analysis, don't leave. We're going to get to that stuff. The anger is on its way, even though I'm really going to try not to be today. I'm just going to give it to you straight, tell you how things are, and then see what type of thoughts and conclusions you make off of the evidence that I give you. So, hey everybody, Miss Shivas Dragon, good to see you. Matt Hines, 7720, good to see everyone. Naomi Nay P Baby, did I already say you? Blue hat or cap? I'm glad you guys are here. Maybe one of these days I'll just come in and just talk. You like Al Horford? Well, Al Horford is as old as me. He might be 2 years younger than me. Who knows? But we can go ahead and get started. It's the top of the hour. More folks are coming in, maybe realizing that we're here. Maybe actually starting this stream 15 minutes, 10 minutes I did early today. A lot of folks to understand that we're doing this rather than coming in 10 minutes late, missing the first part of the first story. So if you're usually that person, understand we start this at noon every day. It's me. It's me. So if you see any issues like we had 2 times this week at the beginning because of that and with Amazon Web Services issue, and as of yesterday because of something that I still haven't figured out, I don't sometimes know the tech side of things. So when issues come up, it's just me. I'm here on the hosting, I'm here on the producing, I'm here on the story planning, I'm here on the editing. Everything that comes through here, yeah, it's because I did it. Maudib69 says, "Where's my Dodgers hat?" I'm waiting. I'm taking this World Series very like low key. I'm not coming in all like you were gonna beat that ass. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm coming in very humble. I'm coming in very quiet because everyone else is saying that, and I don't want to be that. I feel a little bit of a jinxing whenever I do stuff like that, especially if it's expected for my team to win. I'm not used to this situation, so that's why no Dodgers hat yet. If we get to winning, you might see me wear one. I'm one of those guys this year. I'm not going to go that hard on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. There's so much to do. I probably should have stopped talking a few minutes ago. I probably should have started doing the stories right when I came in early, but I'll come back around. Every time I want to come in and just do a random chit chat, I'm like, nobody's going to show up for that, so I just don't do it. You guys let me know. Maybe you'll show up for it, and then maybe I'll do it. I'll tell you guys that in the next chat. But let's go ahead and get started. Happy Friday, everyone. What's up, Ma? This is the watch party here on the watch list. We do it every day at noon, especially on Fridays. Let me bring up my screen. Especially on Fridays when it's Adult Beverage Friday. Except I'm not going to be getting drunk on air. So this is today's adult beverage that I shouldn't be drinking. It's a C4 energy drink. Every Friday I do a different energy drink. At least I try to. This one is Jolly Rancher Green Apple. I've never had C4. I also posted about this on the post section of YouTube, which again, as I always tell you guys, I recently learned about. This is gonna be loud. That I recently learned about exists So it's always a preview shot of the things that I'm going to be drinking to make me go a little bit crazy today, even though energy drinks really don't do much for me. They're like sodas because I'm already high strung. But that's the one I'm drinking on. You guys let everybody know what you're doing. Maybe you're not a drinker. Maybe you do that other stuff. The type of stuff that my mother might say, I don't think you should be doing that. Maybe you partake in other kinds of inebriation. It's all open. It's a Friday. We're headed into the weekend. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's a little opener I want to show you guys, start you guys with, because I thought it was accurate, but also funny at the same time. And when you get accuracy and a little bit of entertainment, I'm all on board. Did you guys see this moment when Ted Cruz was hanging out in a church and he was talking about Donald Trump and kissing ass? And someone decided to let him know who he was talking about. Just a little bit of a start for a Friday.
Policy we should support Israel. Trump is a pedophile! But I want to close with this. God bless you, son. Policy we should support Israel.
There was a nice pause in the middle of his, I guess, sermon about Israel and how we should support them and continue to give them a bunch of money. Trump is a pedophile. That he is. I was wondering what was running through his head at the time. He was probably like, damn, how do I recover from this? Should I say yes, he is? Should I say no, he isn't? Should I get into a back and forth? Ted Cruz is such a lapdog. Is such an unprincipled piece of trash. All he could think was, God bless you, son, because he's in church now. Why is it that Christians, only these types of Christians, I'm talking about the fake ones like Ted Cruz, when they're in church, they'll say something like, God bless you, son, when someone says something that they don't like. But then out in the streets or maybe in his normal political life, he'll just attack them and demean their character and talk shit about them. That's what fake Christians like Ted Cruz would do. So another reason to not trust people like Ted Cruz, but that was fun. Last thought on that, though. What is chanting USA when someone talks about, I mean, I might as well say it, a well-known pedophile who's covering up more pedophiles and their illicit behavior? What does chanting USA do for that? I know they're just trying to drown people out, but what does that have to do with it? Shouldn't you be like pedophiles? Because that's why you're chanting, so that people won't think about the fact that you support one. That's all. And what that pedophile does, let's go ahead and get to this first full story then, is he's sending his Gestapo all through American cities, particularly here, as I pointed out before, in New York. And they're hemming people up, slamming them against the walls, checking for their papers because they don't like to be, disrespected by people looking at them. Or they're trying to hit that quota that Stephen Miller and Donald Trump put on them. This is what happened in New York.
You got people out here locking people up for no reason. I'm born here.
You said you're born here?
Yeah, I'm born here. Kings County Hospital, Brooklyn. I'm born here. I'm gonna get on my fuck up. Yeah, broke that. Loud ass niggas. Suck my.
Hey, Edwin.
Yo, suck my.
So they got a black man pinned up against the wall in New York. And as he said, I was born here. I'm an American. Wait, you were born here? Did you hear the idiot? That gang of idiots that ran him up against the wall and was violating his rights in this country? And he had to be told, oh, wait, you mean you're a citizen? Like that's weird. I never would have thought that. I was told I can just slam anybody up against the wall that I want and charge them with whatever it is that I want, and they have no rights. That's surprising that that's the case. I'm actually tired of people then seeing videos like that and then saying, man, that lawsuit's coming. He better get his lawsuit ready. Man, we're tired with these lawsuits. Fine, get your money, but I don't even think that's even going to happen because we know the red tape that they're going to try and put in front of folks before they can get any kind of consequences for these types of actions, because it's obvious they just keep doing it. It's about time to get by the celebration of people getting lawsuits for cops shooting people in the streets, or now in this case, ICE agents slamming people against the walls and humiliating them because they're citizens, because this guy who's a fascist in the White House told them that they could. It's about time for different kinds of consequences for these folks. The ones that they keep talking about as happening that aren't happening. But as I mentioned, this fascist in the White House is asked about Representative Dan Goldman, Democrat congressman, who was talking about new ways to go after these ICE agents that do things like that. Listen to this guy's answer.
What's your reaction to Representative Dan Goldman calling on NYPD to arrest ICE agents who he says are acting illegally? He says they are illegally assaulting people and illegally detaining people at immigration courts in New York.
Well, you know, I know Dan, and Dan's a loser. You understand. He's a guy that doesn't have what it takes. He's been trying so hard, and they're exhausted. I mean, it's so ridiculous, right? A suggestion like that. So, you know, they're just trying so hard, and it's not working. They've even now started imitating me, of all people. They want to imitate me, and they start using foul language, but they use too much of it. You know, you can't use the F word 7 times in one sentence. It doesn't work. It might work once every 7 news conferences, but you can't do it. You can't do it 7 times in one sentence. So I don't know. They're really they're in big trouble, that party. Go ahead.
What's your reaction?
Did you just hear him answer that question, or did you hear him start saying Dan Goldman's a loser? And then I'm just gonna talk randomly about a whole bunch of other stuff. In other words, he doesn't know anything about what's going on. Actually, doesn't care what's going on as far as some of the pushback from people like Dan Goldman, who said that, you know, these ICE guys should be arrested for assaulting people, you know, like normalcy. He just goes on to talk about how he's a loser, and all the idiots and minions around him start to chuckle about the fact that he's a, you know, 10-year-old kid in an 85-year-old man's body. But what he really doesn't care about is these types of assaults that happen to people, which would be the reasons why Dan Goldman wants people like these ICE agents arrested for assaulting American citizens. That is before we get back to assaulting their asses.
Yo, run over. Y'all finna get a whole lawsuit. What? Whole lawsuit. Yeah. Hit and run. Hit and run. That's a hit and run. Hit and run. Hit and run. That's a hit and run. Hit and run. Hit and run. Look, hey, watch out with that weapon. That weapon. Yo, watch out. What's wrong with you? You hit it. You hit her. Yo. What's wrong? You hit her. You hit her. You guys hit her. You guys hit her. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all hit her. Y'all bust a whole U-turn in the middle of the street. Y'all hit her. Y'all on camera. Leave her alone. She ain't even do. She trying to go to work. She's trying to go to work. Oh, what? That's some crazy. Y'all got no heart, for real. No heart. No heart. She's a female. You guys hit her. How you guys gonna arrest her? You guys hit her. Man, how y'all gonna arrest her, Brad? Oh, bogus. You hit her. You guys hit her. You guys hit her. Whole lawsuit right there. Believe that. I'm telling you. Don't get your issue. Keep in Chicago. Keep around in Chicago. Hey, baby girl, you good. Don't worry about it. Stop resisting. Don't worry about it. We need that information, bro. Ah, bogus is. They just gonna leave our car? Hey, make sure she got all her personal information on it too, bro. You hit. You guys hit her.
So you saw, as was said by the guy that was recording multiple times, you guys hit her. You saw the car accident happen. You saw that unmarked car that's not a police vehicle with sirens or lights coming on, just running into people. And after running into someone, they decide to then go snatch her out of her car, shoes off by her feet and ankles, because they're a gang of criminals running around with their faces covered, talking about how they're so afraid. Now, if you saw a gang of folks run up on a woman in her car, snatch her out and put her on the ground and drop their knee in her stomach and her pelvis, you might jump on them and whoop somebody's ass. You might say, hey, look at these asshole criminals beating this woman down in the middle of the street, and you would whoop their asses. You might even pull out some weapons. But in this case, what you're left doing is recording and saying you're going to get it all on tape. You're going to be okay, baby girl. It'll happen soon. Because you know what? They've scared enough people into worrying about, again, as American citizen, you have no more rights to do anything about people that have been invading your cities, going on and assaulting folks in the streets after causing accidents. So Newsweek wrote about what it is that happened with this woman. So the Chicago woman has told Newsweek that she was forcibly removed from her vehicle by federal immigration agents. It's weird. Maybe they're going after something with federal immigration type of duties, right? Diane Figueroa, a U.S. citizen and paralegal, said an unmarked government vehicle struck her car at this intersection on October 10th while she was on her way to get coffee before going to work. Like Americans used to do. That is, before Trump's Gestapo ran up in the streets, the way I was told that they wouldn't do, and that also that they're not doing as they then do it. So you have to stop arguing with these people about reality, because we see it. Here's more. The Department of Homeland Security told Newsweek that Border Patrol was making a targeted arrest when Figueroa's vehicle blocked agents and struck an unmarked government vehicle. Did you see her blocking agents? Did you see her strike an unmarked government vehicle? Or did you see that government vehicle bust a U-turn in the middle of the street and cut her off and run into the front of her car? Maybe you saw that like everyone else saw happen. In fear of public safety and law enforcement, officers attempted to remove her from her vehicle, they said. She violently resisted, kicking 2 agents and causing injuries. This agitator was arrested for assault on a federal agent. That's what McLaughlin, the spokesperson for DHS, said. This agitator. So she's an agitator on her way to work, as she's a paralegal in her business outfit, headed there. But she, for some reason, was out searching for ICE agents to assault, and then they were injured by this woman. Aren't these some soft, butter soft pieces of shit? They keep talking about how they're getting injured, and man, these American citizens are hurting us. Here's the last slide on this issue that was going on. I'm sorry, there's one more after this. The paralegal said she was transported to multiple undisclosed locations and was not allowed to contact her family or legal counsel. She said she was never charged with a crime or informed of a legal reason for her detention. That sounds illegal to me. What it sounds like is what Stephen Miller said he wanted to do. Suspend due process, get rid of habeas corpus, so that folks can do things like this to you in the street, and then there's absolutely no recourse for it. They don't have to go through any judicial systems. They don't have to tell you what you're arrested for. This is the Gestapo. Didn't you know? We lied to you when we said that wasn't going to happen. Lastly, she said she had recently undergone kidney surgery. Here's a quote from her. I'm presently receiving ongoing medical treatment and attending numerous appointments to rehabilitate from recent kidney injuries, kidney surgeries, and from multiple new injuries directly caused by this assault, is what she said. So as you saw that guy drop his knee on her waist and her stomach area where her kidneys are, where she had recent kidney surgery, they want to tell you that they were injured and assaulted by a woman whose car door they snatched open after running into it and pulled her out by her feet, before they then surrounded her with 3 to 4 to 5 agents, and one standing there with his long gun out in case any American citizens wanted to, beat their asses. But they sustained injuries. So since everyone's recording, and that seems to be the only recourse people figure that they have, here's Fox News talking about what Letitia James has proposed they do with all this footage.
Attorney General Letitia James announcing a new portal where residents can send photos and videos of ICE operations. James says the portal is meant to review and investigate legal violations by agents, and her statement referenced Tuesday's immigration raid in Chinatown in New York City. Meantime, House Democrats say they will launch their own similar ICE tracker. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi criticizing that effort, citing a sharp increase in violence against law enforcement. Coming up later, this.
So I guess there's going to be a portal where you can upload these things. And then what happens after that? I'm not criticizing it. I mean, there has to be some kind of recourse. People have all these videos as they're recording it. But if you also notice, these ICE agents, these DHS officers, all these folks that show up in the street and start assaulting Americans, they also have a videographer many times with them themselves. I guess it's like some kind of like kink that they have. Later, they go back into the office and sit around and watch how they attack a woman, all four of them jumping on here, and they give each other high fives and say, yeah, there we go. Hey, let's tell our supervisor, I'm sorry, whoever that is, let's tell them that we got injured. And then they laugh about how they said they got injured by this small woman who they all jumped on and said that injured her. But then they're taking their recordings and celebrating it later. Maybe they're putting in some kind of compilation edit video where they're putting some music, rock music behind it as they act like they're going after American citizens. By the way, that woman was released with no charges. You know why? Because she didn't do anything. What they did was they got their rocks off on attacking this woman. I just want to keep showing you guys how these things keep happening and how it's going to stop happening. But this is also what's going on. Speaking of attacking people and all the injuries that ICE agents sustained, here's some reality to the people who are actually being harmed by this process.
Sure. I mean, when we saw that they were hiring more than 40 new doctors, nurses, pharmacists, therapists, we thought that was really interesting. I mean, we're in a government shutdown, and so this isn't exactly hiring season in the federal government right now. But when we started looking into this, we saw that not only were deaths climbing very sharply. We are now close to the number of deaths that happened over the course of the entire 4 years of the Biden administration happening in just 10 months, exactly. And so we were asking, DHS, ICE, why are you hiring all these people? We didn't get any answers, but when we started looking into it, we saw the deaths going up. We saw the detainee population absolutely exploding by the tens of thousands. And we learned that there are ongoing lawsuits about medical neglect and access to medication being disrupted for detainees. There was a lawsuit in Michigan about someone whose leukemia treatment was interrupted. There are hunger strikes going on in multiple states in ICE detention over conditions, including poor access to healthcare and medication. And so we talked to a bunch of experts who said, yes, these new hires, if they even happen, when they even happen, could help some things. They could help, people get their medications faster. They could help, when people are first booked, take their medical histories. You learn, somebody might have high blood pressure. Let's make sure to manage that so we don't have an emergency later on. But they said, look, the conditions people are being held in are so inhumane and unsafe. There's overcrowding. People are being held in tents in a lot of places, like this Alligator Alcatraz place and others like it, that there's just no way to keep people healthy and safe.
I think it's a reminder for.
So people are dying in these detention facilities. People aren't getting their medications. These deaths are up. It's kind of like they don't care about people's lives. It's like they consider them lesser and subhuman individuals, that they can do whatever they want to them, because they said they've been given a mandate to have human rights abuses at the behest of this fascist president. The facts are all right there. Don't have arguments with people who are in support of it. If they argue with you about it, it means that they're just saying, I'm all in favor of it. Just like they're all in favor of pedophiles, because they're all about supporting the guy who's covering up the largest pedophile ring probably ever in this country. I mean, probably not, actually. But still, this is the reality of what is this going on. As they're hiring more people to maybe address the problem, these are the type of people that they're actually hiring. Had you guys seen this? ICE has placed new recruits into its training program before they have completed the agency's vetting process. An unusual sequence of events as it rushes to hire federal immigration officers to carry out Trump's mass deportation policy. ICE officials only later discovered that some of the recruits failed drug testing have disqualifying criminal backgrounds, or don't meet the physical or academic requirements to serve. Talk about the least surprising news of the day. They're hiring people who are drug addicts. They're hiring people who don't have the right physical capabilities and are too fucking stupid to do anything else. It's kind of like they're hiring all of Donald Trump's Proud Boys and all of his racists off the streets that he said, stand by until I get you back in some kind of level of power. Here's more from this story from NBC News. Staff members at ISIS Training Academy in Brunswick, Georgia, recently discovered one recruit had previously been charged with strong arm robbery and battery stemming from a domestic violence incident. They've also found as recently as this month that some recruits going through the 6-week training course hadn't submitted fingerprints for background checks as ISIS hiring process requires. Weird how that keeps happening. Criminals are all in ICE. I think that might be the reason why they're acting like criminals in the streets, a gang of criminals running up on people, snatching women out of cars, slamming American citizens against walls in New York before someone says, I'm an American citizen, and they go, really? I didn't know that. Because they're chocked full of racists. The number one requirement to be part of Donald Trump's entire Gestapo and his fascist administration is to be a racist, to be a bigot, and to be stupid. The figures you reference are not accurate and reflect a subset of candidates in initial basic academy classes. That's what the DHA spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said. The same person who said that woman who they snatched out of the car was assaulting all of our officers. Here's more of our quote. The vast majority of new officers brought on during this hiring surge are experienced law enforcement officers who have already successfully completed a law enforcement academy. This population is expected to account for greater than 85% of new hires. Prior service hires follow streamlined validation, but remain subject to medical fitness and background requirements. So, former law enforcement officers, they said experienced law enforcement officers. I would assume it's many of those former law enforcement officers, the few of which who were fired, removed from positions of power because they probably assaulted people in normal traffic stops or whatever else they did, corrupt things they did within their departments before. Those same people that Donald Trump said he wanted to give immunity to during the campaign, you know, when he signaled that he was going to be like this. So all the people who said, oh, he's just trolling you libs. Well, there's all of those fat, dumb, drug addict law enforcement officials formerly that get hired up by ICE because the darkest and the dumbest are the types of people that Donald Trump hires, because Donald Trump is darker and dumber than both of them. I'm talking about his soul and his stupid fucking brain. So the fight is on its way. The fight has already begun. You've seen a couple of instances, but what they're not showing you is people that are responding differently in the streets because they're not ready yet for the response that I've been telling you for months that they're planning and preparing for. But there's reports out now about that plan and that preparation for how they want to deal with Americans who are tired of this shit. Donald Trump had a whole press conference with all of his sycophant, some of these cabinet members who were sitting around him, kissing his ass. One of them was Pete Hegseth. There was a reporter that asked about these reports of this militarized state that Donald Trump wants to implement. See if you can tell from Pete Hegseth's answer if he denies those reports.
Secretary Hegseth, sir, a memo circulating on social media details the establishment of a National Guard response force that's going to be trained in crowd control and civil unrest and deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026. Can you verify the authenticity of that memo, and do you have any more information on the operations?
I'm not going to answer particulars on something that may be in the planning process, but we definitely do have multiple layers of National Guard response forces, whether it's in each state, whether it's regionally, whether it's Title 10 active duty, whether it's Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of different ways that constitutionally and legally we can employ Title 10 and Title 32 forces, and we will do so when necessary.
That was the long version of the word yes. What we do have is a setup and a plan forward to, as the reporter asked, National Guard response force trained in crowd control and civil unrest and deployed in all 50 states. That's the plan. That's been the plan from the beginning. That's why they keep saying Portland is on fire. That's why they keep saying that Chicago's upside down. That's why they said Washington, D.C. has 1 million crimes a day. It's why they said Los Angeles is being overrun by all these violent criminals and them citizens actually want some help. That is until they start attacking the citizens, claiming that those citizens are getting in the way of what citizens want. So be prepared for the National Guard. I'm sorry, armed militarized troops in all 50 states to suppress the rights of all Americans as this militarized state is put into place. I just wonder for the folks who said, "Oh, you're lying about the internment camps," which we have. "Oh, you're lying about the unlawful police in the streets," which we have. "Oh, you're lying about them killing folks in these internment camps," which we have. And now you're lying about the militarized state that's going to be unleashed on all 50 states. That is until Pete Hegseth confirmed it there by not saying no. When he said, "I'm not going to talk about it because we still got plans in place to install our military state because people are going to be fucking fed up with this." It's all at the behest of their king, who really didn't like those protests from a week ago.
Yeah,
No, sir. Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. When you were running for re-election in 2024, you released a video statement where you made this exact promise to show no mercy on the cartels and employ every military asset necessary to combat them. In that same video, you also said that you plan to expose all the bribes and corruptions with politicians and the cartels.
We're doing that.
Has
Yeah,
your
we're
task
trying to
force
do
been
that.
looking into that in American politicians?
Yeah, where the money's coming from. Because you see it. Like even that garbage deal they had this weekend, which was embarrassing to them, and the crowds were much more, the crowds were not big. Those crowds were not big at all. But when you look at signs, and they're all made beautifully, the yellow signs, I saw the yellows, the blues, but they're all made professionally in a printing shop, looks like on Madison Avenue someplace. Some guy is paying for all that stuff. And we don't mind protest. Protest is a good thing. I protest. I'm always protesting, right? But when you see some of these people are going crazy. They're going crazy because they're getting paid. Because there's no reason for them to be going crazy. But you watch some of them, and they're professional agitators, and we are finding out who's paying them. Yeah, we have a lot of information about who they are. You're going to be very surprised when you find out.
I think you might be surprised when you find out who these professional agitators are, because he's going to make it up. He's going to be surprised when you find out too, because it's going to come right out of his asshole. So again, 7 million people are paid professional agitators. Isn't that weird? If that was the case, all these 7 million paid professional agitators that were all in the streets over that weekend where he was so upset about, they might be stimulating this crappy economy that this guy is instituting. You know, there might be more jobs out there. People might have more money to spend. Maybe all these prices wouldn't be going up so much. There'd be so much demand for everything that people can buy now because, you know, everyone's getting paid. 7 million people. Who is this guy who's paying 7 million people to come out and say, "We don't want your ass around here anymore"? It really got under his skin because he wants to continue with this propaganda that everyone likes him when he knows nobody likes him.
Like I saw that ridiculous march the other day. I say, these people are not representative of our country. And not all of them, of course, but many of them are total lowlifes. These are lowlifes. These are people that are paid agitators, and they're not representative of our country. So, like I saw that ridiculous.
They're low lives. I mean, not all of them. I mean, well, so which ones are paid? When is somebody going to ask him for details? The biggest way to make this guy expose himself, not that he hasn't already exposed himself, but further, is to ask him for details, like in all earnest, like ask him, "Oh, Mr. President, I hadn't heard about this. How many of them were paid and how much are they paid? How could you tell which ones are lowlifes and which ones are normal people? I mean, who's the funder of these things? You're going to tell me soon? I look forward to it. And next time I see your face in front of a microphone, I'm going to ask you again, have you given me an update yet on who all these paid protesters were? Because you said they must have printed out their signs at Kinko's when we saw tons of signs that didn't look like that at all. But you don't have to have these discussions about the reality of what it is that he's saying. You just know that he's lying, because that's what he is. He's a liar. So as they're implementing their militarized state, as he's talking about how all these people who didn't want this king, this monarchy that he thinks he's imposing on the country, every time they deny the reality, there's always someone that's within their inner circle, I'm sorry, ass kisser, who absolutely confirms the opposite.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way we finish it through Trump. Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will. And you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
You're not driving me crazy. I'm trying to understand the coherence of the things you've just told me in the last few minutes. On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose. Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another term.
Why does it make that clear?
Because he's on his second term already.
At some point in time, we will make sure we go through, Zanny, and define all those terms.
But even if you find a way to undermine you will be undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it. And to those
Can the American people, if the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people tearing up the Constitution? Would that be tearing up? Would the American people be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
I think yes, actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
That's not true at all. Trump
That's what it sounds like.
It's not. Trump is a dictatorship. Did you just see the compromises he had to make on the big beautiful bill? You see the compromises he has to do on everything, on accommodating Zelensky, on what President Trump. President Trump is nothing but a series of negotiations to kind of keep this thing rolling forward, where he's having trade-offs all the time.
Steve, you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me we have to smash the other side. There's no room for debate. There's no room for compromise. We must smash them. And now you're telling me this is a negotiation. I mean, that's
no.
I think that's why it seems to me some kind of tension.
First off, the only way President Trump wins in 2028 and continues to stay in office is by the will of the American people. Okay, and the will of the American people is what the Constitution embodies. And so I think we're going to be in good hands there. We need to finish what we started. And President Trump is the instrument, a providential instrument to finish this job.
If you ask enough questions, they'll tell you everything, because he has this odd confidence in his lies, in his circular logic that keeps coming back to, well, it's this divine will that Donald Trump is God. But they'll tell you that you're overreacting when you say they're in a cult, but they'll keep saying that Donald Trump has been ordained by God to then go assault people, take over the United States, and take away everyone's rights. He's an instrument of divine will. And by the way, he said later, we'll go ahead and redefine the Constitution by the American people, just making shit up. This guy just talks. All that means is they're going to ignore that later. He goes, we'll get back to destroying that aspect of the Constitution a little bit later. But the American people are going to put him in power. The American people kicked his ass out in 2020, but he said that didn't happen to this day. I think all of the evidence shows that this guy has no recourse, has no kind of no respect for the American people. He just says things. So please, let's get this crusty scab face sumbitch off of TV. Or if you're going to have him in these interviews, I like the question that she asked. There's no There's no kind of like criticisms for the questions that she asked, but after he doesn't answer them or answers them very honestly about how they're a bunch of fascists, just say, well, listen, um, uh, you know, at some point, you're going to be defeated, you fascist. So since you're ready to fight in the streets over your fascism, just be prepared. That's all this boils down to. Because, you know, Donald Trump compromised on their bill because Donald Trump compromised with Zelensky. You mean that war that he didn't end? The one where he said he's going to have to ask Vladimir Putin for permission to give any kind of assistance to Ukraine? You're talking about that one? You mean all those compromises that he made? They just say things and they don't care that they don't make any sense. They're full and utter responsibility. The reason for being here is to support and push forward the king's thoughts. Chris Murphy was posted this, and he was speaking to this nominee for ambassador to South Africa. Think about that. And he was asked this. He asked him this series of questions. Think about who this guy plans to work for.
Do you support having a refugee admissions policy in this country that only admits white refugees?
Senator, I don't make that policy.
Well, but it's really important. But I think this is if I were to ask this question of virtually any nominee to be an ambassador prior to this panel, that would be an easy layup answer. No, of course, we don't support having a refugee policy where we only admit white people. So why can't you give me your personal view on that?
Because, Senator, I am here to serve America and to do what the president is asking me to do. I'll be following the executive order of February.
Would you support reinstituting laws in this country to only allow white people to vote?
Senator, I'm going to serve as ambassador to South Africa, and I'm going to focus on that.
You will not share your personal views on whether it is right or wrong to reinstitute discriminatory policies in this country to prevent Black people from voting?
Senator, my personal views are irrelevant. I am serving here to do what the president is asking me to do in South Africa.
Well, that's just simply not true. The whole reason that you're appearing before this committee is because your personal views, your history is absolutely relevant to your fitness to serve. We wouldn't have this process if your personal views were not relevant. That is pretty stunning that you will not share your views not only on whether we should have a refugee admissions process that is race-based, but you won't share your personal views on whether we should reimpose discriminatory treatment against Black Americans. That is absolutely relevant to your qualifications to serve, and your refusal to answer it, I hope, is something that every member of this committee will think about.
Hey, Chris, the rest of this committee won't think about that. It's why the rest of this committee also, I don't know if it's this particular committee, but others confirmed people like Pete Hegseth, confirmed people like Kash Patel, confirmed people like Pam Bondi, because they all said similar things. Actually, he's being more honest than they were, but they're doing it. He says, I'm here to serve America and do what the president is asking me to do. Well, the president is going to ask you to do more discriminatory race-based policies because the president is a racist. So in doing that, as he just admitted, I'll do whatever he wants. My personal views are irrelevant. It harkens back to that thing that I just played the other day where RFK Jr. back in 2016 said, all we need is these fleshy dominoes. We may not have that many Nazis in America, but we definitely have enough soft pieces of garbage that are willing to do whatever it is one guy wants when he says he's going to scratch their belly and give them a little bit of power and money. And they fall right into place. Kind of like what RFK Jr. is also now doing. Their personal views are irrelevant. They serve the king. So please don't have any more discussions with them about whether or not this guy thinks he's a king. The people that serve him, as that trash human being just said, have no views. They're there to serve him. And if you're there to serve him, he'll say things like this. You guys remember we talked about Michael Wolff yesterday and his countersuit towards Melania Trump and Donnie. He says author Michael Wolff can sue my sweet wife Melania all he wants, but don't be surprised if he's filing his motions from El Salvador's Supermax. Hope he doesn't. Oh, I hope so. Try and escape Latin America on a boat. He's connecting all the dots. First of all, Michael Wolff is the guy that's been exposing him and his nefarious pedophiles type of activities and his close friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, you know, that case that he keeps trying to cover up. And when Melania was looking to sue him, he said, bring it on. I've got some things I would like to expose from you too. And now he's mixing it in with his idea of sending American citizens to El Salvador's Supermax prisons, which he did. And then also, if he escapes, blowing them up in Latin American waters, which he's also doing. In other words, I'm a fucking dictator. If you cross me, I will imprison you. And if you get out of there, I will kill you. In case you guys weren't here yesterday, or in case you're just not seeing this video, I'm going to show you guys what Michael Wolff said that forced Donald Trump, this guy, wannabe dictator, to post that. You know why? Because the biggest thing are these Epstein files, and he keeps getting under his skin, and he keeps showing how he's going to expose him.
I can't live like that. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I'd like nothing better than to get Donald Trump and Melania Trump under oath in front of a court reporter and actually find out all of the details of their relationship with Epstein. Turning the tables on the Trumps and refusing to acquiesce to them. Last night, my lawyers went into court in New York and asked for a declaratory judgment. In other words, we will have subpoena power to call witnesses and to find out exactly what the relationship between Epstein and the Trumps was. Now, this is going to be an expensive effort, and I'm going to reach out and
that pumped a little bit of fear into his little heart. And since that pumped fear into his heart, all he can respond with are threats of murder, because that's who Donald Trump is. That's all. That's who he is. So continue fighting back. He's soft and he's weak. And I played Steve Bannon talking about a third term. Donald Trump's not going to be here for a third term. Maybe he'll hide out in his bunker and he'll end it all there. Similar to his, his spirit animal. Let's go to this next story. You guys, just, in case you guys just not getting to realize that I've been talking for damn near an hour already because I came in 10 minutes early. I'm going to go over. I've got extra things. It's a Friday. What can I say? I was a little bit handicapped on Monday, and also was that Wednesday or yesterday, just Thursday. I got lots to say. I hope you guys hang around. If you don't worry. These stories will also be up on the page later. I promise you that. Even if later becomes over the weekend, there's also something else happening that's coming up on the weekend that I did go over yesterday. It is the full story on that Michael Wolff pushback on Melania Trump and them. And it goes deep into all the things that we've been seeing and being exposed about Donald Trump and the Epstein situation. The reasons why this is the most important thing for him to never see the light of the day. And trust me, he's not going to let it see the light of day. We're going to have to force it. And enforcing it, he's going to push back and get violent because he's in them. So hang around a little bit longer, you guys. Before we go over to the Friday TDR, I've got this story I'm going to squeeze in at least from the top of the hour before I then get to more. Did you guys see this ad coming out from Ontario, Canada? That province up there. After this whole trade war was going down, remember, we've made all of our allies our enemies. This is Canada's response to what is it that Trump has been saying is beautiful, great, beautiful tariffs that make everything wonderful and great. Trust me, I'm a Reagan conservative. This is what Canada responded with.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
What a nice, peaceful ad from Ontario, Canada, using former President Reagan's speech about tariffs and free trade to show just how wrong Donald Trump is. So, when something like that happens, reality rears its ugly head in front of this fascist administration. They start pressing on people, or they get their allies to do it, which they did in this particular case. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, they responded, since Reagan's voice was there. They said, "We've learned that the government of Ontario, Canada created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Ronald Reagan delivering his, quote, radio address to the nation on free and fair trade, dated April 25th, 1987. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter. We encourage you to watch President Reagan's unedited video on our YouTube channel." You know what, Ronald Reagan Presidential Administrative Institutional Progress, whatever the hell organization you are, I followed that link. The good news is I followed that link to your YouTube channel. The video is like just over 5 minutes long. The parts at the beginning, because I'm not gonna run the full 5 minutes, I'll run this section of it. They said unedited because the ad took parts of what is that he said, that all those things that made sense as far as tariffs and trade goes, and they said they edited it. Well, you edit a lot of things, but what they didn't say was that they edited it and changed its meaning. They tried to insinuate that, but they did say they edited it. They wanted to run the whole 5.5 minutes. I have a good idea, you guys. Go to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute page on YouTube, like they said to. Listen to the whole thing. And what you'll hear is the only parts that were taken out were the parts about how he's instituting some tariffs on Japan at the time in 1987, because they felt that there was unfair trade practices around things like microchips or something, right? And then in those cases, it's necessary to try and get some kind of pushback. But this was his point right in the middle of it. See if what he said disagrees with what Donald Trump is doing. As you can see, it's from April 25th, 1987. From that,
For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, "Let's impose tariffs on foreign imports," it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports.
I think if you listen to the whole thing, you'll find that even more so, more than that Canadian ad, more so, you'll see from the Reagan Institute that they told you to go and watch disproves Donald Trump even further. But what they don't expect you to do is go and listen for 5.5 minutes, because they figure people's attention spans aren't long enough. They figure people will just listen to whatever it is that they and Donald Trump say. They figure enough people don't have enough brain power to think on their own or do their own, not even research, just to watch long enough and listen and pay attention. Everything that old, crusty, horrible president broke down there is true. And guess what else it is? It's 100% what Donald Trump is doing right now. That address that couldn't look more 1987, that is showing exactly what this president is doing. But reality has no place in propaganda. So when reality slaps you in the face, especially a fascist like this, you have to lash out. And in order to try and drown out the reality, to drown out the guy that you said agrees with you on this, and in order to do that, you have to scream. And when you scream, you go on Truth Social. After we've seen that, imagine hearing what Ronald Reagan actually said and then reading this. Donald Trump posted. This is damn near all capitals. Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs, when actually he loved tariffs for our country and its national security. Canada is trying to illegally influence the United States Supreme Court in one of the most important rulings in the history of our country. Canada has long cheated on tariffs, charging our farmers as much as 400%. Now they and other countries can't take advantage of the U.S. any longer. Thank you to the Ronald Reagan Foundation for exposing this fraud. MAGA. I don't think it could be any clearer that Donald Trump leaned on the Ronald Reagan Foundation. That's why he's thanking them at the end. What that really means is, because I told you so, to do what I tell you, because again, he has this fascist authoritarian mindset. And he's like, I'm going to lean on people to be my mouthpieces to try and give me some kind of legitimacy in my lies. Imagine hearing what Ronald Reagan said in 1987 and saying that he agrees with him. Imagine that. But the only way he's gotten this far is because enough people don't pay attention. They don't read anything, and they definitely don't listen long enough, because as Stephen Bannon pointed out in that last story I just did, this is a cult, and you don't have free thought. You listen to the dear leader, like it's North Korea or something. So the propaganda went further. He followed up that because he's like, maybe that's not enough. I don't think enough people buy it. He followed it by saying this. This is all caps. The United States is wealthy, powerful, and nationally secure, again, all because of tariffs. The most important case ever is in the United States Supreme Court. God bless America. If you notice, 2 times in both of those posts, he pointed out that he's very focused on the Supreme Court rulings over these tariff policies. That's what he's concerned with. And I'm not sure how Ontario, Canada can influence this United States Supreme Court, who you handpicked several members of, and to do their bidding. Why would that happen? Oh, I guess he's going to declare war on Canada next and say he's going to start shooting people that end up in some international waters because he's so upset at Ontario for posting a video that quoted Ronald Reagan saying he dislikes tariffs, or not even dislikes them, just blatantly pointed out the effect of nationalism and tariffs in those ways. That's all he did. Because they figure, post about it, tell lies, spit propaganda, put an old man in front of cameras and microphones and have them just keep pushing the same propaganda lies. It's an overwhelming flow of stupidity.
It's the single biggest problem that we were given. Inflation, I've already taken care of. Economically, the country is the strongest it's ever been. Thank God for tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we'd be a third world nation. But thank God for tariffs. We're the richest nation in the world now because of tariffs. And we're able to economically protect ourselves. And we're able to really protect ourselves from a national security, situation. But it's the single biggest problem that we were given. Inflation, I've already taken care of.
The only inflation this guy is taking care of is the inflation in his diapers every time he talks and shits in them. But he's just going to push this same line. Things are great. America's on the right track. The economy is wonderful. It's flourishing. I've already taken care of everything. It's wonderful. It's awesome. There's a reasons why anybody who speaks the truth, he calls them fake, because that's how fascists work. I wonder if he has any answers to this.
And there's a new flashing warning sign about the financial health of the federal government. The U.S. debt, the balance on our collective credit card, has been growing at an astounding rate of nearly $70,000 per second over the past year. That's according to the Joint Economic Committee. It now stands at a colossal $38 trillion. Meanwhile, do
you guys remember when politicians used to talk about debt and deficit? Remember they used to talk about how it grows so quick? They used to have like a debt clock. Remember all those things? They're not talking about that anymore. I wonder why they're not talking about that anymore. I wonder why there's no more debt clock running. That what they said? $70,000 a second. I need to look at that graphic again. $70,000 a second. But Donald Trump has it all taken care of. Hey, here's the last rail of their propaganda. So you've got the fascist in chief sitting there talking all these lies and getting upset at other countries for, relaying the message from former Republican presidents. Then you got state TV with Kayleigh McEnany, who, if you guys don't remember who she is, she worked in his first administration to be a part of all of this propaganda that didn't really work out that well for them, because there was a few people that still actually believed in normal government that were still crazed Republicans, but they wouldn't go so far as the fascism. She's one of them. So in her new role, where she continues to make money for lying, this is what they want to celebrate. I want you guys to pay attention to this. This is the new normal for the Republicans for the United States of America. See if you appreciate this as much as Kayleigh McEnany does.
And last but not least, one trend in true brand is making a big comeback as consumers tighten their wallets. And here it is, Hamburger Helper. The mix of mac and cheese and ground beef is seeing a surge in sales. And last but not least, one trend.
I'm going to play it again. Not because you could miss it, but I want you to hear it again. And also listen for the one behind it go, when she talks about Hamburger fucking Helper.
And last but not least, one trend in true brand is making a big comeback as consumers tighten their wallets. And here it is, Hamburger Helper. The mix of mac and cheese and ground beef is seeing a surge in sales. And last but not
Hamburger Helper is seeing a surge in sales as Americans tighten their belts and their wallets. Why would Americans have to tighten their belts and wallets even further? For Hamburger Helper, a mix of mac and cheese and ground beef. You know what's even better? Tuna Helper. You know what's better? Some slop. Maybe you know what's even better? Just a mix of flour and water. Because that's all we can afford. When is that golden age for America going to start? I keep seeing Donald Trump texting and tweeting and all this stuff about how amazing things are and how he's got everything taken care of. How our farmers are thriving. But they want to celebrate the resurgence of Hamburger Helper. You know what? Next month, Kayleigh McEnany is going to be celebrating the resurgence of ramen noodles. She goes, remember that old classic college classic that you used to have back in 1988? Ramen noodles back on the rise. Just mix a little bit of that sodium packet over some cheap ass noodles, and boy, you've got a resurgence. America, fuck yeah. They want you to be this stupid. They want you to somehow buy this madness. That's Fox News celebrating the resurgence of Hamburger Helper. I don't think Hamburger Helper ever went anywhere. I've always seen it in the store. Hamburger Helper. Thanks to you guys that have taken off already. I understand you. I got another story though. So for those of you that are still here, maybe hang on for another 10 minutes with me. We'll see where this goes. But also, if you're taking off, tell John I say hey and apologies. We're having a big party here on a Friday. Just a little bit of truth. I spoke earlier about the way Donald Trump threatened Michael Wolff with hopefully leaving some prison in El Salvador so he can kill him on a boat. The reason he said that is because Donald Trump celebrates how he's a murderer. You don't have to call him a murderer. Just listen to him talk and he'll be like, yo, listen, I'm a murderer.
And briefed them on the operations.
No, we
against
will
these.
go. I said.
You will go, and
we
it would
will
be
go.
difficult for them to object.
I don't see any Lawson going. No reason not to. They'll always complain. Oh, we should have gone. So we're going to definitely. I'd like to just tell you, let's go. We go.
And Mr.
We're going to
President,
tell them what we're going to do, and I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels, and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay, we're going to kill them. They're going to be like dead. Okay.
And briefed them on.
You see how that murderer was very jazzed about the term kill them. We're going to kill them. He held on to the M a little bit longer because, he got jazzed up for a second thinking about murder. He's bloodthirsty. So since he's so bloodthirsty, he's talking about people that he thinks don't need to exist because they're beneath him, because he's a white supremacist. And he said how much he wants to kill people. So as he's making the excuse for his murderous tendencies, and he talks about how he wants to kill more people with zero trials, zero investigations, just shoot them and blow them up. He gets a little bit of help from his Secretary of War. That's why he named him that, because they like killing people.
On the drug boats, sir, has there been any discussion about capturing one so that you can show the amount of narcotics?
Everything about them. Yeah.
Some alleged smugglers have survived some of these recent strikes and been sent back to their home country. If they're terrorists, why not just arrest and detain them?
Go ahead.
2 points on that. First, when I served in Iraq in 2005 and 2006, we used to, in sort of a gallows humor way, talk about the Iraqi catch and release program, the reality that we would catch a lot of people, hand them over, and then they would be recycled back through and we'd have to recapture them or attack them again. And that's why changing the dynamic and actually taking kinetic strikes on these boats ought change the psychology of these foreign terrorist organizations. To those two that survived the shot on the semi-submersible, think again, compared to Iraq and Afghanistan, the vast majority of people that we captured on the battlefield, we handed over to the home country. Did we always like how it shaped out? Sometimes we did, sometimes we did not. But 99% would go to the Afghan authorities or the Iraqi authorities. So in this case, those two, they were treated by American medics and handed immediately over to their countries where they came from, hopefully to face prosecution, which is a very standard way of handling something like this.
Because he heard Donald Trump talk about catch and release so much, Pete Hegseth decided to serve their king, as we've talked about before, and talk about the reason we're just blowing people up indiscriminately, which also Donald Trump bragged before about blowing up fishermen indiscriminately, and said, I guess it's going to take a hit to the fisherman business because he doesn't care. Pete Hegseth decided to jump in. He punted towards him. He goes, Pete, go ahead, handle this one. Go ahead, serve me. Go ahead and tell them how we're going to keep murdering people and have absolutely no actual investigation, no confrontation, nothing. Let's just kill them, as we already heard him say. And when those types of declarations and energies lead to someone asking very normal questions about how this guy wants to lead into more wars and how it's not just going to be about international waters where they can claim all these people are drug smugglers bringing drugs to the United States of America so that Don Jr. can snort more of it. Not any of that. So just so that he can kill more people. When he hears these questions, that's when the denials come in.
Mr. President, thank you. Mr. President, thank you. Good to see you. If I could just ask both of you, including Secretary Hegseth, there's reporting the U.S. just sent B-1 bombers near Venezuela to ramp up some military pressure there. Is that accurate? And can you tell us more about that mission?
No, it's not accurate. No, it's false. But we're not happy with Venezuela for a lot of reasons, drugs being one of them, but also they've been sending their prisoners into our country for years under the Biden administration. Not anymore. We have it closed.
Man, everything is Biden, huh? But he's denying those reports that they're sending, bombers in towards Venezuela and start some wars there. The guy who wants the Nobel Peace Prize, he's denying it, even though all reality completely shows that. All he has to do is dismiss it. Maybe someone should ask him the next question and give him the proof and evidence of his lies. And then before you give him a chance to lie again, say, so why did you deny reality the first time? What are you trying to cover up? Ask it calmly, ask it confidently, because he's a liar. Like, you don't have to live in the reality of the liar. You really don't have to. Some people actually don't live in that reality of these lies. They don't get as much of a platform to talk about how they shouldn't live in this reality of this effing liar. Here's one of those guys. Listen to this part before I tell you how much of a just listen to Rand Paul, since we're talking about drug boats.
Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit, there's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that, in order for them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle of, when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then there are rules of engagement. But interdicting drugs has always been a criminal activity and a criminal anti-crime sort of activity, where we don't just summarily execute people. We actually present evidence and convict them.
What I'm trying to figure out is if Rand Paul is clear-headed enough to say things like there's no fentanyl made in Venezuela, not just a little bit, but none. And therefore, when we're killing people based off of this, because it's literally impossible for these folks on these little boats to make drug runs from Venezuela to the United States, as they keep saying that they're doing, as also they say things like, we're just going to kill them. As they keep saying all this stuff, when Rand Paul, a Republican, a well-known Republican, says things like that, why he doesn't then keep saying it? Why he doesn't then say things like it's criminal activity for them to do things like this? So why he then doesn't try and bring up criminal charges or tell his other fellow colleagues, yo, we got to stop following behind this criminal. He literally just laid out a direct contradiction to what it is Donald Trump is doing, and said that it's criminal activity and that we can't just indiscriminately kill people as if we're in a war. Because, Congress has to be the one to declare war. That's why Donald Trump said, why would I go through Congress? Why would I declare war? I just want to kill people. But you know what? Sadly, since Rand Paul isn't doing anything except talking to Piers Morgan about it, he probably could go through Congress to declare war, because every time anyone tries to do anything about his plan to kill more people in boats, fishermen and stuff, for some reason, when that happens, they don't really care and they support him anyway.
Somewhere off the coast of Venezuela, a speedboat with 11 people on board is blown to smithereens. Vice President Vance announces that killing cartel members that poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. When challenged that killing citizens without due process is a war crime, the Vice President's response is that he doesn't give a shit. What we are doing in practice means that a terrorist is whoever the executive branch decides to label one. You are a terrorist because you are labeled one. You can be killed because you are called a terrorist. But where in all of this is some sort of evidence
that you are guilty of something. I move to discharge the Committee on Foreign Relations from further consideration of SJ Res 83 to direct the removal of the United States Armed Forces from hostilities that have not been authorized by Congress, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
On this vote, the yeas are 48, the nays are 51, and the motion is not agreed to.
Order.
So they blocked the order to stop Trump from just killing people in international waters because the Republicans run Congress. I just wish Rand Paul, who was arguing in favor of blocking him from doing this, as he was talking about how as long as they just determine someone a terrorist, they can just kill you, and that bypasses due process. It gets through all the normal legal proceedings of proof and evidence. I just wish when he was talking about that before, when he wasn't talking about that when Stephen Miller was talking about suspending habeas corpus, I just wish that Rand Paul would have said then, Stephen Miller just said he wants to suspend habeas corpus and just kill people. He wants to just jail people. He wants to disappear people off the streets, and didn't support him. I wonder why Rand Paul has these flashes of reality in his head where he's willing to say something like, this is criminal activity. These are terrorists that are calling you a terrorist in order to kill you by the power of the United States government. But when the people who are about to do it say we're gonna do it, Rand Paul is silent. I'm just saying. Similar to Marjorie Taylor Greene and anyone else that decides to say something one time about how horrible this administration is treating their power. Because then once they do it, they go, I wonder if somebody's going to do something about this. All I can do is say something to make myself look good in this particular moment. Okay. Thanks, you guys. It wasn't 10 minutes. It was 14 minutes I went over. Appreciate you all that hung around and stayed for that. I just want you to know what's happening. Hope you can enjoy your weekend. By the way, update on the Jolly Rancher Green Apple C4 energy drink. There's a green apple one for my favorite Nas brand of energy drinks. It's better. Green apple in general is not my thing. It comes to drinks. Let's just keep that real too. Anyways, that's for another Friday. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you being here. Love to see you. Maybe I'll do some random chats with you guys because I enjoyed that little 5-7 minutes I had with you guys. Let me know. Also, you guys can follow me and find me on Instagram. You'll see me there if you have some thoughts, some suggestions. I get a decent amount of you guys reaching out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and let me know what you think. See anything that you see happening. Update me on things that I may have missed. Maybe some new story ideas. I don't know if you guys are tired of all this stuff, but it's important. So if you see stuff, let me know. I've taken some ideas from some of you guys. I'd like for this to be interactive. Good to see you. Have a good weekend, you guys. I hope you're not drunk. Tell John I say hey. Have a good weekend. See you, man.